let's get to answering these questions. Um, a lot of people have been sending me a couple questions, so I'm going to take the time to answer them. I'm going to keep it brief. Number one, why should I sign an agreement with a studio, label, management, and etc.? The answer is, the reason why you should, because anybody that you're working with, you want to have some sort of solid proof that you're working with the studio, label, or management. And if it was any type of altercations or any type of problems, you have legitimate proof that this is what we agreed to, the time, date, pricing, if it's promotional, if it's standard, you got legitimate proof of everything. Number two, in what ways does signing an agreement benefits me? As the same with kind of my answer with number one, how it benefits you as an artist, because anything that you go and do with anybody, you want to have solid, legitimate proof. Because if it was any altercations that you have to go within the court of law, you have legitimate proof that this was done at this place with these people at this time. This is what we agreed to, and it's all documented. Number three, are verbal agreements substantial in court just as a written agreement? The answer is yes. A verbal agreement is just as good as a written agreement in court. So watch who you working with. Not as much who you working with, not more of the people you working with. Watch yourself and when you make an agreement, because if you make a verbal agreement and then try to change your mind on that, and the person's still going off their verbal agreement, you have an issue right there. And this is how I'm going to explain it, what I mean about that issue, because another person asked me this question, which is number four. Can you be sued for making a verbal agreement with more than one label, studio, or management? And the answer is yes, because if you make a verbal agreement with one studio, label, or management, and you try to switch over, that's going to be a problem, because a verbal agreement is still as good as a written agreement. So you cannot just switch over without having a proper consent and agreement. And you also should make sure the first company you working with, even if you have a verbal agreement, make sure that you're being properly released. So if you want to switch over, my opinion, any unfinished work, I will go finish it first before I switch over to the new label. So that way is no confrontation between y'all two. Number five, if I made a verbal agreement with one studio or label and I want to switch over to a new studio, should I inform the first studio or label about these changes? And the answer is yes. You want to inform, if you make an agreement with one label and you want to move over to a new label, out of good faith and out of proper business aspect, I would go to the first label. I will, sit down and talk to them and let them know, okay, I'm within this verbal agreement with you. How much time does this agreement stand for? If you agree for a month and you already knew, the best thing I would do is, when you're working with one label, to max out your time first before you go to a new one. And if you did decide to go to a new one, I will sit there and confirm the first one so y'all can make the proper arrangements. If they might want to, they might want to collab with the new label. The new label might want to collab with the old one. It might be something beneficial for all of y'all. So the proper steps to do it is to go confirm it with the first label. And if you're not finished the project, okay, sit down, talk to them, and let them know, okay, for future reference, after I finish this project with you, I'm going to be moving on to another label. So the best thing to do, instead of with the first label having unfinished music and try to go to a new one, I would sit there, finish up the music with the first label. And if once I go to the second label, any music I done with the first label, I would not repeat it. I would not try to do it on new beats. I will come with new material. Okay, let's flip over the page because we just have a few more questions left. Number six. Is it okay to take a beat from one label and use it with another label, even if it's a promo? The answer to that is, if you get a beat from one label, even if they pushing it out as a promotional CD, and you want to go record it with another label, go to the first label first and see if it's okay with it. Even if it's just a promotional CD, but you like what's on it and you want to use something, go to the first label. Let the first label know about that first. And if the new label want to record a beat that's coming from the first label, have the new label contact the first label and let them sit down and make a proper agreement, whether it's a verbal agreement or a written agreement. Never just take one beat from one label and try to record it with another. I had issues like that before. I'm not going to get into that, but it does happen, and it happens a lot. That's because some people don't understand the rules of protocol when it comes to how to conduct yourself in a proper business aspect. Number 7, what is the difference between an industry and a sample beat? Truthfully, it's none. The only difference is, all right, you got an industry beat and you got a sample beat. 9 times out of 10, a lot of people will use the industry beat, but then you have others who would take an industry beat, whether it's from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 80s, 90s, whatever time, they will sample it and put their extra, put their twist into it, probably extra instruments, chop it up, pitch it, fade it, however they do it. But the whole thing is, the similarity is industry beats and people who make sample beats, a lot of that stuff is originally not yours. It comes from somebody else. Unless you're a person who samples off your own music to try to remake new music, like remixes, that's fine. But if you get on a mixed CD, rhyme off a DMX beat, for example, and then you have another person who takes that same DMX beat but sample it, put his own little twist into it, and go rhyme into it, it's really no difference. Like I said, the beat don't belong to neither one of y'all originally. The only difference is with a sample beat, you could sample it, you could tweak it, you could pitch it, you could switch it and make it not sound like a sample beat. But you got your productive skills into that sample beat. So to me, it's really no difference. Like, if I'm going to do a mixtape, if I go off an industry beat, it's going to be considered a mixtape freestyle. If I go off a sample beat, it's going to be considered a mixtape freestyle. It's really no difference. Number 8. What all do copyrights protect? Copyrights protect your music if you're just copywriting your music. If you're a beat maker, it protects your beats. If you produce, make your own beats, engineer your own music, make your own videos, then copyrights can protect everything that you do as long as it's coming from you. Now, a lot of people do songs on industry beats for a mixtape and try to copyright it, but out of that, you can only copyright your lyrics. So the smart thing to do during copyrights, when you go to copyright that mixed CD, copyright just your lyrics. Don't try to copyright the whole CD, even though it's a mixed CD, because being as though those are industry beats you're using, you can be sued for that. So when it comes to copyrights, never copyright the whole project if you're making a mixtape. Only copyright your lyrics. You can only get rights to your lyrics, not to nothing else. Number 9, what benefits come from copyrights? Legit copyrights. Now, a lot of people mail their music to themselves. That's dead man copyrights. That is a form of copyrights, but within the court of law, that only stands for a temporary time until you can actually obtain proof from your publishing company or your copyrights company that this is an artist that has legitimate copyrights. Without that, dead man copyrights don't really last too long. Now, when it comes to beats, a lot of people say, okay, well, what if somebody take your beat and then try to copyright it? Yeah, a lot of people could try to take your beat and copyright it, but if they don't own the masters, or if they don't have the original program files which make up the beat, and you can provide that, there's no way they can copyright it. They can copyright it, but then when you go in the court of law and show that you're the original creator of this beat, you have the masters, you still have the project, I don't care if you got to take your laptop to court with you. That person is going to look real stupid for trying to take rights to your stuff, and they will be sued, and you can sue them for a lucrative amount. Number 10. What is the best way to copyright your music in a settlement? The best way to copyright your music, if you're doing singles, you can copyright it as singles. If you're doing a demo project, say like if it consists of 5 or 7 songs, what you want to do is put the project together, make one title for your whole project, and copyright the whole project as one. If you copyright one project and individual songs, you have to pay for each song. But if you copyright it as a project, then you'll have, if it's 10 songs, you'll have 10 songs that copyrighted as one project, and that's how your copyrights and publishing companies want to see it, as multiple songs on one project. 11. What is the best way to go about working with a label or studio? The best way to do that is, number 1, be trustworthy, be honest, be ready, be prepared. I love it when an artist come over, they got a book bag, they got the music in it. If it's mixtape, they got the instrumentals ready. They practice, they can read it off the paper, without the paper. They already ready to pay their dues. Of course, artists know how they want to do their music, but it's the producer who come to life, so people who respect their producer, who listen to their producer, who take criticism, who love insight. And as long as you got a good, decent environment, then that's the best way how you go about working with a label in the studio. As long as it provides a good, clean, decent environment that you can actually be yourself and expand your horizon of your times. Number 12. Which is better for mixtapes? Let me rephrase that, I'm sorry. Which is better? Mixtapes or original CDs? Both of them are good. You know, mixtapes, a lot of people want to start from underground and they do mixtapes. The problem is when you do mixtapes, a lot of people put so much of their original music into mixtapes that when it's time for them to do an original track, they have a hard time because they spent all their time putting their original music into mixtapes. So when they go to take that same song and try to put it on the original beat, it's hard because in their mind they're stuck to the mixtape music, the original music that they provided on an industry beat. So they're stuck to their format. When you write original music, you want your original music to be versatile, that you can put on an R&B beat, a party beat, a techno beat, industry beat, whatever type of beat. You want your music to accommodate any beat, but also when you do your music, you want to give your music a different feeling. I see a lot of people put their all into mixtapes, but then when they get on original beats, they cannot do nothing, or they can, but they don't give the same feeling as the mixtape. The only problem is because on industry beats, you always try to outshine the person who originally did the song, and 9 times out of 10, you just wind up sounding like that person. Me, preferably, I prefer to use original beats, so that way this is me, original sound, original feel, coming from an original person, not somebody who's sounding like Drake, Lil Wayne, Gucci Mane, Yo Gotti, Busta Rhymes. You don't want to sound like nobody in the industry. You want to sound like yourself. And the best way that I say to do that is to rhyme off the original beat. Now, that's it. So if you got any more questions, you can leave comments or questions on YouTube. You can hit me up on Facebook. You can leave questions, comments on Twitter. You can leave questions, comments on myrappaudition.com, MySpace, or you can just email me at duanemorris19@yahoo.com, and I will gladly answer them immediately. At least 2-3 times a week, I'm going to be taking a list of questions. What I do, I accumulate to at least by a dozen questions, and I'll sit there and take the time to properly answer. So until then, this is your boy Quite Familiar, DT Entertainment, signing out. Like I said, holla at me. Gladly answer any questions, and glad to help. Keep playing that music. I know you love it. Thanks to all my fans that helped me push up. I'm almost in the top 100 spot on Reverb, but still gonna keep coming. Got that work for you. Holla at me.